Long before the pitter-patter of rain was met with the rustle of nylon or the spring-loaded click of a modern umbrella, there was the sun. It scorched, it seared, and it reigned above the ancient world like a god. In those early days, the purpose of an umbrella wasn't to deflect rain at all. It was to fend off the sun's fury. The story begins over 3,000 years ago, in the silent courtyards of ancient Egypt. Picture it, a vast desert landscape, golden sands stretching endlessly under a sky of fire. Pharaohs sat on ivory thrones while slaves and servants stood nearby, holding long-handled canopies made from palm leaves, feathers, or stretched linen primitive umbrellas. Yes, but powerful symbols. These were not for the common man. They were for royalty and the elite, shields against both the sun and social inferiority. In Egypt, the umbrella was more than just a tool. It was an extension of status. To shade oneself from the sun was to declare a life of luxury, a life without labor. For those who toiled, the sun was inescapable. For those who ruled, the umbrella became a floating roof, a canopy of distinction, always carried by another, never held by the person it protected. The concept spread across the Red Sea. Ancient Mesopotamians also took to creating shade. Assyrian kings marched in processions beneath grand parasols held high by servants. These parasols appeared in carved reliefs, ornate and rigid, signaling divine protection. An umbrella. In their myths, gods were often pictured beneath the same curved shapes. The canopy didn't just block the sun, it connected earth to heaven. But it was in China, around the 11th century BCE, where a major leap took place. Not content with simple sunshades, Chinese artisans began crafting collapsible umbrellas, bamboo ribs, oiled paper, intricate designs. They introduced an idea that would one day circle the world: mobility, practicality. The first true umbrella, capable of folding, of traveling. Here it wasn't merely a mark of status, it became a blend of art, function, and philosophy. Chinese umbrellas were painted with dragons, lotus flowers, and verses of poetry. They were used in ceremonies, weddings, and funerals. The umbrella became a carrier of meaning, a metaphor for protection, transition, and the balance between heaven and earth. Confucius once said, "He who would rule must stand beneath heaven with virtue." Perhaps unknowingly, those words found physical form in the umbrella, a miniature sky above, a moral man below. In ancient India, too, the parasol held immense spiritual weight. Carvings from the Maurya period show Buddhists and Jain figures standing beneath tiered umbrellas. To be sheltered was to be sanctified. Even the great Ashoka, the emperor who renounced violence and spread Buddhism, had his edicts carved in stone beside depictions of umbrellas held aloft. Across Asia, in Korea, and Japan, umbrellas began to be used not just by nobles, but monks and scholars. A symbol of enlightenment, of separation from the storm of worldly distractions. These early umbrellas were delicate, crafted with care, carried with reverence. Meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, Greeks and Romans adopted parasols as signs of elegance. Roman women used them to keep their skin pale, a sign of beauty and high birth. In Athens, parasols even entered theater and poetry, often as punchlines: too dainty, too feminine, unfit for a warrior's hand. And yet, they persisted. Then came a long pause. As empires fell, and Europe plunged into the Middle Ages, the umbrella, once a staple of nobility and not completely, but mostly. In the muddy, war-torn cities of medieval Europe, protection from the sky came in the form of cloaks, cowls, and hoods. The umbrella, with its delicacy and ceremony, seemed unsuited to a world of iron and plague. But it was not gone. Not entirely. In the shadows of monasteries, in the pages of illuminated manuscripts, and in the courts of the Islamic caliphates where knowledge from Greece, Rome, Persia, and India mingled like ink and water, the umbrella endured. The Abbasid caliphs, ruling from Baghdad, kept ceremonial parasols in their processions. In the scorching cities of North Africa, shade remained precious, and slowly, quietly, the umbrella began preparing for its return. By the 16th century, The seeds of the Renaissance were sprouting across Europe. Artists painted angels with feathery wings hovering beneath canopies. Royal courts rediscovered old customs. Silk traders from the East brought new materials, new designs, and along with them, the idea that perhaps the umbrella could once again find a home under the European sun, and soon, rain would come into the picture. But for now, in this earliest stretch of its history, the umbrella was not a tool of the weather, it was a symbol of shade, of class, of wisdom. It lived not in the hands of peasants, but in the grip of emperors and gods. It casts no shadow of convenience, only legacy. It is the early 18th century in London, and the sky, as usual, is in a foul mood. This is not the drizzle of poetry, nor the melancholy mist of romance novels. It is raw, unrelenting, English rain spitting down through soot-black clouds, soaking every surface in sight, pounding rooftops and cobblestone streets with no regard for fashion or dignity. The people of London hunch beneath hats and cloaks. They quicken their pace, duck under awnings, or simply submit to the wet with resignation. No one, absolutely no one, thinks to open a parasol in this mess. That would be absurd. And then, one day, there he is, a man in the middle of the street, holding something curious over his head. It is not made of lace or linen. It is heavier, waterproofed with oil, balanced with a sturdy shaft. Its canopy is wide, its handle strong. The man strides along with an air of calm defiance, and the people stare. His name is Jonas To most, he looks like a lunatic. Because in 18th century England, umbrellas, if they were seen at all, were for women, for the rich, for foreign travelers with strange customs, and certainly not for a man to use in the rain. Yet Hanway is unmoved. He is no fool. He is a writer, a traveler, a former merchant who has seen half the world and weathered its storms. He knows that in Persia, in India, in the Ottoman Empire, people have used umbrellas for centuries, rain or shine. What he's holding is not a novelty, it is a practicality, and soon, a revolution. The first reaction, however, is ridicule. Horse-drawn cab drivers furious at the idea of losing wet, desperate customers shout insults and throw muck at him. Pedestrians jeer, street urchins chase after him, pointing and laughing. Men call him effeminate, eccentric, perhaps even French, but Hanway persists. He walks beneath his umbrella for 30 years, and slowly, painfully, imperceptibly something begins to shift. At first, it's the brave and the eccentric who join him, philosophers, artists, and foreign-born men who care little for English snobbery. Then it's the merchants, always watching for trends. And finally, the practical folk, doctors, clerks, letter carriers, the very people who must move between places, regardless of weather. The invention of the rain umbrella spreads, one soaked bootstep at a time. Umbrella shops open, designs evolve. What was once a fixed canopy becomes collapsible. What was once reserved for sun is remade for storm. London becomes the testing ground for the modern umbrella. Its gray sky is the perfect laboratory. But Jonas Hanway's rebellion is not the only one. Across the Channel, in Paris, umbrellas are also catching on, but here, it is women who first wield them in the rain. In the boulevards of the 1750s, painted parasols become both fashion and function. Their edges are scalloped, their poles lack. They carry the scent of perfume and powdered wigs. Soon, a new figure appears. The umbrella vendor, with a tray of folded canopies on his back. He walks the streets like a peddler of fortune, renting umbrellas by the hour. The service is one coin, one umbrella, one dry walk across the city. The idea spreads to other cities. Milan, Vienna, Berlin, and eventually, back to London, where the idea of renting umbrellas seems both clever and dignified. But the real transformation is not in fashion or commerce. It is in language. Because now, for the first time in English history, the umbrella is no longer laughed at. It is named a brolly in colloquial terms. A gomp, after a famously umbrella-wielding character in Dickens. It enters poems, stories, songs. It becomes part of the cultural furniture. And then, it enters war. During the Napoleonic campaigns, umbrellas are spotted among officers' gear, not as military tools, but as comforts from home. They appear on ships, in camps, beside tea kettles and letters from wives. Their presence is quiet, domestic, but profound. By the time Queen Victoria ascends the throne in 1837, the umbrella is fully accepted in British life. And not just accepted, but standardized. It is now made of steel ribs instead of wood. Its handle is curved for better grip, and its canopy winds paper or silkies now waxed cotton, tough, durable, British. In this new age of trains and telegraphs, the umbrella becomes the gentleman's shield and the lady's flourish. One never leaves the house without one. Children are taught to carry them upright. There are umbrella stands in every home, every bank, every law office. The storm has been tamed, but as with all inventions, the umbrella's story is not a straight line. It bends, it breaks, it reforms. The 19th century thunders in with smoke and steel. Factories rise like black towers across the cities of Europe and America. Steam engines hiss on rail lines. Telegraph wires hum with invisible news. And the gears of the Industrial Revolution grind on without pause. Everything is being mechanized, scaled, and in the midst of this metal age, a quiet war is being waged over umbrellas. Not just any umbrellas, folding umbrellas. By now, umbrellas have become common. They're seen in the hands of bankers and bakers, tucked under arms, hung in vestibules, and poking out of city crowds like strange mechanical flowers. But they're still bulky, heavy, awkward. Most can't fold in any practical way. You either carry them like walking sticks, or hang them up somewhere inconvenient. And then comes Samuel Fox, an ironmonger's son from Durham. Fox works in Sheffield, a city known for its steel and cutlery. In the 1850s, Fox begins to experiment with umbrella ribs. At the time, ribs are still largely made of whalebone, a flexible but organic material that warps and breaks over time. Fox replaces it with something new, U-shaped steel ribs, both light and strong. He calls them Paragon ribs. The result, an umbrella that holds its shape better, resists wind, and lasts longer. Fox's ribs become the industry standard in Britain and beyond, and his factory booms with demand. But his real legacy is this: he transforms the umbrella from craft to product. Still, the collapsible umbrella, the dream of a truly compact rain shield, remains elusive. While some designs claim to fold, they do so awkwardly. Hinges catch, fabrics crease, handles stick, most are impractical gimmicks. Until, quietly, in the 1920s, a man in Baltimore dares to try something radically different. His name is Hans Hoped, a German engineer who moved to the US after World War I. Hoped is tired of lugging around large umbrellas. Inspired by a collapsible camera, tripods, and folding canes, he begins to experiment. His breakthrough comes in 1928 with a design that uses a telescoping shaft and folding ribs. He calls it the pocket umbrella, small enough to fit in a bag, elegant, useful, and finally truly portable. Hoped files his patent, and with it, he changes the umbrella forever. In the decades that follow, dozens of companies race to copy, improve, or market their own versions. The folding umbrella becomes a symbol of convenience, of modernity, no longer a luxury, but a tool of the everyman. Umbrella makers begin branding them aggressively. In London, Fulton becomes a household name. In New York, Totes begins to flood the market. Umbrellas become impulse buys, hanging near shop counters and kiosks, sold for a few coins. They are everywhere. In glove compartments, in purses, at bus stops. No longer a mark of elegance or eccentricity, they are now a practical defense against the sky. But something else changes too, because with portability comes despite. No longer cherished or mended, umbrellas are now cheap enough to lose without care. They break easily, and they are replaced just as fast. The umbrella, once a symbol of ceremony and craftsmanship, begins to suffer from its own success. And yet, beneath the surface of this cheap convenience, innovation continues. In Japan, engineers refined folding mechanisms. In Italy, Designers add flare leather handles, silk canopies, gold-plated tips. In Sweden, stormproof models are tested in wind tunnels. The umbrella refuses to stay still. Meanwhile, artists and inventors reimagine the form entirely. What if an umbrella could open with the press of a button? What if it could resist 60-mile-per-hour winds? What if it never turned inside out again? In the age of industrial abundance, the umbrella is constantly evolving it, somehow always familiar. It is still the same shape, the same gesture, the same instinct. A hand lifted toward the sky, saying, "Not today." And as cities swell and weather patterns shift, the umbrella becomes part of the rhythm of daily life, like keys, like wallets, like phones. But now, in the heart of the 20th century, a new problem looms: plastic. As materials change, umbrellas become cheaper, but also less sustainable. Landfills filled with broken ribs and torn nylon. The convenience of the folding umbrella has come at a cost, not just financial, but environmental. And soon, people will begin to ask, can an ancient tool survive in a world that throws everything away? But before we get there, we need to rewind. Not to London or Baltimore, but to the East. To Japan and China. To Korea and Thailand, where umbrellas never stopped being sacred, and where their stories intertwined with religion, ritual, and mythology. A journey where umbrellas don't just block weather, they summon spirits. And sometimes, they speak. Not every umbrella is meant for rain. In the East, long before Jonah Sandway braved the London streets, before Samuel Fox bent steel into ribs, the umbrella held a different place in the world. It was not simply a shield, it was a symbol, a spiritual tool, a whisper between heaven and earth. Begin in China, where the earliest known collapsible umbrella dates back to the Zhou dynasty, over 2,400 years ago. This was not an everyday object. It was an artifact of ritual and court ceremony, created for emperors, carried in processions, used in funerals and weddings alike. The umbrella was more than practical, it was cosmic. Crafted from paper stretched over bamboo ribs, oiled for water resistance, and painted with dragons, phoenixes, clouds, and fire. It was art, philosophy, and architecture in one. In Taoist cosmology, the round canopy represented heaven, and the handle, Earth's axis. It was not carried to avoid the rain, it was carried to embody the universe. By the time of the Temps and Song dynasties, umbrellas had become common in city life, but they had not lost their symbolic power. They were associated with rank, with seasonal rituals, with respect for nature. A closed umbrella had its own quiet etiquette. You didn't twirl it or place it on a table. You leaned it against a wall like a resting sword. Across the sea in Japan, the umbrellonianas the Vagasa followed a similar spiritual lineage. Made from washi paper and bamboo, dyed in deep reds, purples, or indigo, the Vagasa was rarely seen as merely functional. It appeared in Shinto weddings, in No theater, in Buddhist funerals. It shaded geisha from the sun and samurai from scrutiny. But there was another kind of umbrella in Japan, the kasoa bake. In Japanese folklore, it is said that objects, after 100 years of existence, may gain a soul. And one of the most famous of these spirits is a haunted umbrella. A single-eyed creature with a long tongue and one foot, hopping through the night, laughing in the wind. The kaseo bake is not evil, not quite, but it is a warning, a symbol of the things we discard to us, a reminder that even forgotten tools carry stories, that the mundane may one day look back at us and blink. In Korea, too, the umbrella held symbolic weight. During the Joseon dynasty, noble scholars used parasols as marks of dignity and status. Painted with calligraphy or family crests, they shaded the learned, the virtuous, the Confucian ideal. There were strict codes on who could carry one and when. The umbrella was not casual, it was composed. Travel south to Thailand and Burma, and the umbrella once again becomes sacred. Here, Buddhist monks walk barefoot with parasols over their shaved heads, symbols of detachment and purity. In temple festivals, giant paper umbrellas are raised like flags, spinning gently in the wind. Each motion Each shadow is filled with ritual. The umbrella becomes a wheel, a reminder of the impermanence of shelter and the grace in seeking it. In the Burmese city of Pathin, umbrella making has been an honored craft for centuries. The traditional pathantia kind of ornate, layered parasol takes days to create. Artisans paint lotus, blossoms, and gold leaf scrolls onto the canopies, while children run between dye baths and drying racks, barefoot in sawdust. These umbrellas are not mass-produced. Each is a prayer in fabric. And while the West industrialized and folded its umbrellas into pockets, the East continued to revere them as anchors to another world. A world where shade is not just absence of sun, but presence of meaning. Even today, when plastic and nylon umbrellas flood the streets of modern Tokyo or Beijing, you will still find the old ones. In Kyoto tea houses, in Chinese New Year processions, in the hands of brides, monks, and masked actors, the umbrella lives not just in weather but in memory. Back in the West, something else begins to stir. As cities get taller and weather gets wilder, people begin to ask, is there more to this ancient tool than convenience? Can we learn from the past? Can we design umbrellas that last not just a season but a lifetime? Or are we destined to keep buying, breaking, and discarding them, forgetting that once an umbrella meant the world? A black screen, then music soft, sweet, the hum of a Hollywood orchestra. A lamppost glows in the misty dark, and there he is. Gene Kelly, twirling an umbrella, smiling like the sky has never been brighter. Singing in the Rain, 1952. The umbrella isn't shielding him, it's dancing with him. A partner, a prop, a symbol of joy, in defiance of the downpour. That moment didn't just charm audiences. It redefined the umbrella. By the mid-20th century, umbrellas were no longer just tools for staying dry. They had entered the realm of story and symbol. Cinema made them immortal, because after centuries of royal parasols, Buddhist processions, and gentlemanly walks along foggy avenues, the umbrella had become something else, a kind of language. One that directors, costume designers, and writers spoke fluently. Think of Mary Poppins, floating through the London sky, her prim black umbrella outstretched like a wing. It isn't just magic, it's control. A nanny who bends the rules of reality, armed with a carpet bag and a canopy. Think of Alfred Hitchcock's Foreign Correspondent, where umbrellas cloak secrets in a wartime crowd. Or My Fair Lady, where Eliza Doolittle's parasol reflects the fine line between refinement and rebellion. Or even Batman Returns, where the Penguin's umbrella is a weapon spinning, firing, absurd and deadly. The umbrella becomes more than weather gear. It becomes mood, mystery, mischief, and it wasn't just on a silver screen. In post-war Europe, fashion reclaimed the umbrella as an accessory of Dior's models walked under curved silk parasols. Chanel paired them with pearls. In 1960s Paris, Vogue ran spreads of monochrome umbrellas in geometric princage, one an extension of the model's silhouette. Designers understood something essential. An umbrella shapes how you move, how you stand, how you're seen. In London, the city that once mocked Jonas Hanway, the umbrella became a badge of style. The city gent wore his tightly rolled black umbrella like a saber. For women, the umbrella came in florals, pastels, lacquered handles, and lace trims. It was no longer just protection, it was presentation. And in Tokyo, innovation met tradition. Designers experimented with translucent umbrellas, clear vinyl domes that allowed pedestrians to see through the rain. Cheap, efficient, and oddly beautiful. These bubble umbrellas became a street-style staple and remain a staple of urban life in Japan today. But just as the umbrella entered glamour, it entered protest. In 1965, photos from the Selma to Montgomery Marches show civil rights activists carrying umbrellas not just to shield themselves from sun and rain, but from tear gas and cameras. Umbrellas became shields, not metaphors, but literal defense. Fast forward to 2014, Hong Kong, protesters flood the streets, demanding free elections. The police respond with pepper spray, rubber bullets, and tear gas. And what do the people raise? Umbrellas, yellow, black, From students to elderly citizens, umbrellas spring open not to keep them dry, but to push back the storm. They form a moving barricade, a symbol, a banner, and the world takes notice. The press calls it the umbrella revolution. Overnight, the object becomes political, poetic. Artists stencil umbrella symbols on walls. Protesters chant under open canopies. The umbrella is no longer pacified as resistance. Something ancient flickers through the plastic and nylon. The same spirit that once crowned pharaohs and shaded monks now stands on concrete, defying riot shields. It is a return to meaning. And all the while, in the quieter corners of the world, umbrellas remain what they always were: companions. The folded one hanging by the door, the damp one forgotten on the train, the one you shared with someone you loved once, long ago. They show up in books, in memories, in art. In 1988, British artist Michael Craig Martin painted a pink umbrella symbol flat, outlined in black, but it wasn't just an umbrella. It was a study in a reminder that even the most mundane tool carries power, precision, purpose. And yet, in a strange way, the umbrella has always lived in contradiction. It is both delicate and durable, common and ceremonial, cheap and cherished. It hides us, reveals us, walks with us through sun and storm. It begins with frustration. You're walking down a city street. The wind howls around a corner. Your umbrella turns inside out with a humiliating snap. You fumble, you curse, you try to coax it back into shape, but it's too late. The ribs are bent. The canopy flaps like a broken wing. You toss it into the nearest bin. Another casualty, and someone, somewhere, watches this happen and thinks, there must be a better way. That someone could be any number of people. Because in the last 2 decades, the umbrella has become one of the most re-engineered objects on the planet. Thousands of patents, dozens of startups, millions of dollars thrown at solving a problem that is thousands of years old. How to keep water off your head without it flying away. It's about control. In the 2000s, a Dutch industrial designer named Gerwin Hugendorn has his umbrella flip inside out 3 times in 1 week. Aircraft wings. Ito Senti want to make a better umbrella. He wants to make the last one anyone ever needs. The result is the Sens, triangular in shape, with an aerodynamic profile. The Sens umbrella slices through gusts up to 100 kilometers per hour. It doesn't flip, it doesn't fail. It becomes an icon of minimalist Dutch engineering, sleek, smart, strange looking, but undeniably effective. Suddenly, the umbrella is a tech product, and not just because of the design. Enter the smart umbrella. In 2016, a French company launches Umbrella, an umbrella that connects to your phone via Bluetooth. It sends you weather alerts. It pings you if you leave it behind. It even tracks how often you use it. It is not just an umbrella, it is part of your digital life. Other models follow. Some come with GPS, some play music, some glow in the dark. Some are built with memory, wire bend it, twist it, crush it, and it springs back into shape. Others are made of carbon fiber and Teflons, stronger than steel, lighter than plastic. And yet, for all this innovation, most people still buy the same $10 umbrella at the corner store, knowing full well it will break by the next storm. Why? Because the umbrella has never stopped being disposable. It is the perfect paradox. One of the oldest tools in human history, constantly redesigned and constantly forgotten. But the 21st century is not just the age of tech, it is the age of sustainability. And here, the umbrella faces its greatest test yet. Because most modern umbrellas are environmental disasters. Nylon canopies, fiberglass ribs, plastic handles. When they break, they don't biodegrade, they just pile up in landfills. Thousands per day. Cities like Tokyo and London report millions of discarded umbrellas each year after major storms. So, some designers are pushing back. They build umbrellas from recycled ocean plastic. They design modular umbrellas that can be repaired, not tossed. In Sweden, the company Kisha makes umbrellas with replaceable parts and GPS trackers to reduce loss and waste. In the UK, Startups like Blunt test their umbrellas under wind tunnel conditions before they hit the shelves, aiming to create one you'll never need to replace. And in South Korea, where monsoon season overwhelms entire cities, engineers experiment with canopies that channel rain away like a roof, drying faster, staying lighter. There are even prototypes for invisible umbrellas, devices that use pressurized air to create a cone-shaped shield. No canopy, just wind. It's science fiction, but real, noisy. Battery-powered, yes, but a glimpse into a strange possible future. Yet amid all this innovation, one truth remains. The umbrella still unfolds, still turns, still opens with that familiar click and whoosh, like a flower blooming against the storm. It's tactile, immediate, human. You don't need to explain how it works. You don't need a manual. It speaks to something ancient in Usta, desire to carve out a private space beneath the chaos of the sky. We may dream of improvements. We may throw Bluetooth chips and carbon fiber at it. But the essential act has never changed. A hand lifts, a canopy rises, and the world becomes just a little more bearable. Not every umbrella gets its moment in the rain. For every successful invention, for every sturdy canopy that shields a pedestrian or floats across a movie screen, there are others strange, brilliant, impractical that never made it past the drawing board. Some were too early, some were too odd, and some were simply victims of the weather's unforgiving logic. Imagine a museum not of paintings or bones but of umbrellas that never quite worked. Here, in the dusty archives of patents and prototypes, we find the dreams of tinkerers and visionaries. Each umbrella tells a story not of success, but of creative defiance. Let us begin in 1884. A man named William J. Riley submits a patent in the United States for an umbrella hat. Not a hat with a built-in canopy, but an umbrella that straps directly to the head with a harness. The hands remain free. The rain is deflected. The design is absurd, but oddly forward-thinking. Variations of this would appear for decades. Umbrellas for farmers, for gardeners, for soldiers in the trenches. Most never sold, but the idea never quite died either. You can still buy novelty versions, today bright-colored, striped, ridiculous. Next, turn to the corner of the museum marked Transformers. Here we find the convertible umbrella walking stick, patented in London in 1915. It's a gentleman's cane, until it isn't. With a twist, it springs into an umbrella, elegant, discreet. Unfortunately, it was mechanically finicky, prone to snapping, and almost impossible to repair. A noble failure. Nearby stands the double umbrella, two canopies, one on each end of the shaft, supposedly for two people walking back. It exists in multiple patent drawings. One from 1933 includes a mechanism for rotation, so the pair can switch positions in the wind. It is, of course, completely unusable in real life. Then there is the all-direction umbrella. From 1950, one designed with overlapping rings of fabric and moving ribs, allowing the canopy to tilt in any direction. The idea? Total protection. The result? Overcomplication. The thing was so heavy and awkward that few could carry it for long. And what about the umbrellas made for war? In World War II, intelligence agencies explored the idea of weaponized umbrellas. One infamous example: the Bulgarian dissident Georgy Markov, assassinated in 1978 on a London street. The weapon, a modified umbrella that delivered a tiny pellet of ricin into his leg. The idea had reportedly come from Soviet KGB engineers. This dark twist forever changed the public image of umbrellas in spy fiction. In another wing of our museum, we find the inflatable umbrella. From the 1970s, a small device worn on the shoulder, which, at the press of a button, releases a ring of inflatable plastic that expands above the head. It worked, technically, but it was loud, vulnerable to punctures, and made the wearer look like a jellyfish. Let's not forget the solar-powered umbrella. Designed in the early 2000s, with built-in solar panels on the canopy, meant to charge phones or power small fans while shielding you from the sun. It was expensive, heavy, and rarely produced. Today, it might be better suited for cafe patios than commuters. Some umbrella failures weren't mechanical, they were cultural. Consider the attempt to redesign the umbrella as fashion. In the late 1980s, an Italian fashion house released a line of transparent umbrellas with internal lighting. The idea was to glow while walking at night. Safety meets couture. But the lights failed in the rain, the wires, and people didn't want to glow. Even great designers stumbled. In 2008, a concept called the airumbrella went viral, vertical umbrella that looked like a wind tunnel. It worked by channeling air up a curved column and forming an invisible shield. It was sleek, futuristic, completely theoretical. No working prototype was ever shown. And yet, people loved the idea. Why? Because we want the umbrella to be perfect. We want it to never break, to never flip, to never drip on the floor or catch in a crowd or poke someone's eye. We want it to fold to the size of a pen, but expand to cover a doorway, to be light as a feather and strong as steel. We want magic, and sometimes inventors try to deliver. In China, a company launched the Air Umbrella. On Kickstarter in 2015, a handheld device with a motorized fan that blew water away from the user. No canopy, just air. It raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it was loud, unwieldy. The battery lasted less than 30 minutes, and it didn't really work in heavy rain. It quietly disappeared. Yet all these failures, funny, strange, tragic, share something powerful. The belief that even now, after thousands of years, the umbrella can be better. They remind us that invention is not always about success. Sometimes, it's about the act of reaching, of standing in the storm and thinking, what if? The rain falls everywhere, but not everyone meets it the same way. Across the centuries, across continents, the umbrella has not only shielded us from weather, it has crowned us, carried us, anointed us. To open an umbrella is sometimes to open a portal between the ordinary and the divine. Our journey now takes us far from London's fog and Tokyo's neon streets into the rituals of kings and shamans, brides and warriors, where umbrellas do not just keep one dry. They declare, this is sacred, this is honored, this is beyond. Let's begin in Ethiopia, in the highlands of Gondor, where the clouds drift like ghosts across green valleys. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church conducts ceremonies that go back to the 4th century. One of the most breathtaking is Timkit, the Epiphany celebration. It marks the baptism of Jesus, and it is a spectacle of movement, color, and sound. Here, priests process through the streets beneath ornately embroidered gold, emerald green each, one edged with silk tassels and hand-stitched crosses. These umbrellas are not accessories. They're thrones above the sacred relics known as tablets, representations of the Ark of the Covenant. Only the highest priests may walk under these umbrellas. They are both shielded and set apart. The canopies mark the spiritual hierarchy, an invisible architecture of holiness. Sun or rain, the umbrellas rise like halos above the faithful. From Ethiopia, we move east into the royal court of Thailand. Here, the umbrella called Chhatri is woven into the very language of power. In ancient Siam, the number of umbrella tiers symbolized rank. A commoner might have none. A minor noble might have 3, but only the king could sit beneath the 9-tiered umbrella. Ceremonial parasol made of silk and gold, mounted high above the throne. It wasn't held. It was installed, permanent. The 9-tiered umbrella was not just decoration, it was legitimacy. During coronations, the king would pass beneath it and claim divine right. Even today, it remains in use in Tyroya Sermoniza, vertical monument to authority, echoing back to the Hindu and Buddhist cosmologies, where 9 levels of heaven spiraled toward enlightenment. And while Thailand enshrines the umbrella as a royal sigil, Burma gives it theatrical life. In the Buddhist tradition, novice ordinations are grand affairs. Little boys dressed in princely silks ride through towns on horseback, on elephants, or on foot, reenacting the life of the Buddha. And over each child's head, a family member holds a parasol, sometimes red, sometimes gold, always wide and curved like the rising sun. The act of holding the umbrella is not assigned lightly. It is considered a merit-giving didan, offering to protect not just a person, but a path toward enlightenment. In Sri Lanka, too, the umbrella is a part of religious offering. During temple processions, white umbrellas are carried in front of sacred relics, shielding them from view, dust, and sun. They are held with reverence and never allowed to touch the ground. In India, the umbrella carries layers of meaning. In both Hindu and Jain traditions, it is a symbol of dignity, of protection, of divine favor. The god Vishnu is often depicted seated under a serpenthood cosmic umbrella of sorts. Jain monks, renouncing all possessions, often walk barefoot under simple parasols, a final thread tying them to the world before renouncing even shade. But the umbrella is not always solemn. In South India, particularly in Kerala, umbrella festivals are a riot of color. The Thrissur Puram, one of the largest temple festivals in Asia, features parades of caparisoned elephants carrying vibrant parasols stacked in towering arrangements. These umbrellas are changed mid-poured in choreographed displays of timing and showmanship, accompanied by drums and fireworks. The more magnificent the umbrella, the greater the devotion shown. Let's travel now to the Pacific. In the islands of Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji, traditional umbrellas were once made of woven palm leaves, carefully stitched and sometimes dyed. They were carried by chieftains and highborn women during ceremonial occasions. Shade, in tropical climates, is precious. But the act of giving shade to a chief, a bride, a warrior returning from victory was more than comfort. It was a gesture of honor. In these island cultures, you don't stand beneath your own umbrella. Someone else holds it for you. The symbolism is clear. You are worthy of my labor, of my protection, of my hands. This act crosses oceans. In China, during traditional weddings, a red umbrella is held over the bride's head as she leaves her home. The color wards off evil spirits, while the umbrella shelters her as she crosses the liminal space between maidenhood and marriage. Sometimes, coins are sewn into the umbrella's fabric, symbolizing wealth, protection, fertility. It is not opened indoors and never turned upside down. Like so many ancient customs, it is a choreography of belief. Even in Tibet, large ceremonial umbrellas are part of monastic processions. They are painted with mantras, edged in fringe, and used to mark spiritual leaders, relics, and sacred images as they are carried through mountain towns. In the high-altitude sun, they shimmer like mandalas in motion. And then, unexpectedly, we find the umbrella once again in Urubute, not in churches or palaces. In Catholic processions, especially in southern Italy and Spain, large baldachins are still used to shade the Eucharist during outdoor events. Often held by multiple bearers, they do not shield people, but the divine. It is a trace of the old imperial parasol adapted now to serve something higher than kings. Whether made of silk, paper, palm, or polyester, the umbrella in ritual reveals a truth that spans continents and millennia. To give shelter is to give meaning. To raise a canopy is to elevate a moment, to transform weather into theater, procession into performance, movement into metaphor. These are not just relics of the past, they continue today. Watch a Buddhist funeral in Chiang Mai, a Coptic wedding in Cairo, a royal ceremony in Bangkok. Somewhere, someone is still unfolding an umbrella, not for rain, but for reverence. Not every umbrella has a story written in silk or sung in ritual drums. Some sit quietly by the door. Others are forgotten in the back seats of taxis, left dripping in library foyers, or folded forever in the corner of a closet. These are the umbrellas of everyday life, humble, silent companions that come and go without ceremony. But they stay in our memories longer than we expect. There is something deeply human about an umbrella. It is intimate. You carry it close. You open it above your head. It frames your body. It follows you through bad weather, shares your silence in the drizzle, clicks shut with finality when the storm passes. It is not just an object, it is an experience. Ask anyone, they'll remember one. Perhaps the clear plastic umbrella from childhood, large enough to see the sky through, with raindrops tapping above like fingers on glass. Or the navy blue one your father always carried, never quite dry, never quite broken. Or the red one you bought in a rush during a summer storm when you had no plan, and the sky fell suddenly like a curtain. Some umbrellas we borrow and never return. Others we return and wish we hadn't. Some are left on trains folded neatly, waiting on the seat like forgotten travelers. Some are found by strangers who open them and carry a small piece of our lives into a different city, a different day. An umbrella often outlasts the moment it was bought for. It can sit untouched for years and still snap open, reliable and unchanged. A witness to seasons, a keeper of time. Even broken umbrellas tell stories. The one you tried to open in the wind and failed, its ribs bent like spider legs, fabric flapping like sails. You held it anyway, stubborn, knowing it would never close properly again. You carried it home like a wounded bird. We don't throw umbrellas away immediately. We hesitate. We lean them in corners. We mean to fix them. We feel guiltier than we would for a broken pen or a torn sock. Why? Because umbrellas feel like they've been loyal. They were there, over our heads, when the world turned gray, and sometimes they shared a moment. There's a kind of intimacy in sharing an umbrella with someone. You have to walk in step, tilt the canopy just so. Shoulders touch, conversation softens. The world outside is narrowed to a small, private dome. Rain falls just inches away, but you are together, dry. It's no wonder that in so many films and stories, the umbrella becomes a stand-in for connection. Two strangers duck under one during a downpour. A couple laughs, soaked to the bone, under a broken canopy. An old man waits on a bench, umbrella open even though the rain has stopped just in case. In cities like London, Tokyo, or New York, umbrellas are part of the choreography of the street. They bob and turn, lift and lower, dodge and dip around each other. On a rainy morning, the crowd becomes a field of black domes, rising and collapsing in rhythm with traffic lights and puddles. And yet, we rarely look up. We know each other only as silhouettes beneath the fabric. The umbrella offers anonymity as much as shelter. In some cultures, to lend someone your umbrella is a quiet form of affection. It implies trust. It suggests a future moment of return. In Japanese folklore, to leave an umbrella behind at someone's house was once a subtle romantic signal. Take your time, it says. Come back when it rains again. And sometimes, the umbrella is the last thing we hold on to. In hospitals, in train stations, in the middle of unexpected grief, umbrellas are still folded, still opened, still clutched in trembling hands as if their small span of control over the elements might offer control over other things. 2. There are even umbrella graveyards. In major cities, lost and found apartments fill with abandoned canopies after every storm. Some are reunited with their owners. Most are not. They are donated, recycled, or quietly disposed of. 100 different umbrellas, 100 different stories, all forgotten at once, but not quite. Because even the word umbrella carries echoes of its past. From the Latin umbra, meaning shade, shadow. It's a soft word, melancholic, like a cloud passing across the sun. It's the same route as umbrage, the same root as somber, a reminder that to live under shadow is to live in a world of nuance. An umbrella does not stop the rain, it only makes space beneath it. It doesn't deny the weather, it offers grace in the midst of it. And perhaps that is why we love them, not because they solve everything, but because they accompany us quietly, steadily, without demand. The skies are not what they used to be. Around the world, the clouds are heavier, the rain's more sudden, the wind's more violent. Droughts stretch longer than memory, than breaking catastrophic floods. Cities that once planned for mild drizzle now find themselves underwater. Storms grow teeth, names, and reputations. This is the age of climate change, and the umbrella, humbly ancient, often overlooked, is caught in the middle of it, because it was never designed for this. The umbrella we carry today, the one we buy for a few coins and replace every season, was built for a world of predictable rain, a world of polite showers and manageable breezes. It is a tool for a gentler climate, not the chaos unfolding now. But as the weather turns erratic, our need for protection becomes more urgent and more complicated. In Jakarta, monsoon rains now flood entire districts within hours. Pedestrians wade knee in water, umbrellas useless against the horizontal deep. In Miami, sunny skies turn to lightning within minutes. catching tourists unprepared. In Mumbai, the rain doesn't fall, it pours, churning traffic to a halt and turning umbrellas into little more than colorful decorations over desperate heads. It's not just more rain, it's more wind, and wind is the enemy of the umbrella. Already fragile, by design balanced on thin ribs and fabric tension, the umbrella buckles, flips, fractures. In storms exceeding 30 miles per hour, most consumer umbrellas fail, and those that don't are often too expensive or heavy for daily use. Designers are trying to catch up. Urban engineers in Singapore are developing public umbrella sharing systems. Think bike share, but for rain. You pick up a reinforced umbrella at one station, use it through the storm, and drop it off at your destination. It's practical, communal, a small gesture of adaptation. Meanwhile, architects are reimagining urban design itself. What if cityscapes had permanent, retractable canopies along sidewalks? What if buildings offered rain corridors, covered walkways that let people travel dry from block to block? In Seoul, some business districts already feature smart awnings that extend automatically when rainfall is detected. But what does this mean for the personal umbrella? Its identities, small, private, intimate, doesn't fit neatly into systems and structures. Its strength is its portability. Its weakness is its fragility. And in an unstable climate, fragility has a price. That price isn't just broken spokes and wet shoulders. It's waste. Each year, over 1 billion umbrellas are sold worldwide. Most are made from mixed materials: nylon, fiberglass, aluminum that are nearly impossible to recycle efficiently. When they break, they're discarded. Landfills grow. Microplastics leak into soil. Steel rusts into dust. So designers are now asking hard questions. Can we build a truly sustainable umbrella? Not just one that lasts longer, but one that is modular, repairable, biodegradable, one that doesn't clog the planet's veins after it dies. Some answers are emerging. In the Netherlands, startup engineers have developed canopies from recycled ocean plastic, reinforced with bamboo ribs and natural rubber joints. In Japan, craftspeople are returning to traditional paper umbrellas, biodegradable, durable when waxed, and surprisingly elegant. In Italy, a small company is producing umbrellas with wooden frames, organic cotton canopies, and brass fastenings, every part built to last decades, not months. Expensive, yes, but a protest against the culture of Other inventors are focusing on form. A group of engineers in South Korea unveiled a prototype with collapsing wind slits that adjust automatically when gusts rise. A lab in California has filed patents for an umbrella with a gyroscopic center designed to stay level even during strong crosswinds. And yet, for every innovation, there's hesitation. Because most people still want their umbrellas cheap, light, and immediate. We buy them in train stations and airport gift shops. We lose them, we forget them. We don't think of them as companions, but as afterthoughts. Can that mindset change? It may have to. Because in a warming world, the rain won't always be gentle. The sun won't always be tolerable. And the spaces between shelter will grow more dangerous. Heat waves, hailstorms, UV spikes. The idea of protection must evolve with the elements. Perhaps the umbrella's future isn't just rainproof. Imagine an umbrella with a UV sensing canopy, changing tint with solar intensity. Or one that collects rainwater through channels and stores it in a handle reservoir for drinking or irrigation. Imagine a collapsible umbrella with solar strips on its surface, powering your phone while you walk. Science fiction, not anymore. But there is another possibility, that as the storms grow stronger and the world more unpredictable, we begin to carry umbrellas not out of habit but out of awareness. That each time we lift a canopy, we're reminded not just of rain but of our relationship to the sky. A portable shelter, a symbol of fragility, a reminder that we are small but not helpless. We began with sunlight, not rain, not thunder, just the simple, scorching need to step out of the fire of the sun. That need, ancient instinctual, is what gave birth to the umbrella, or more precisely, the parasol. A cloth canopy raised high above Egyptian royalty, fanned by servants, stitched by hand, too precious to touch the ground. And from that gesture one person, lifting something over another, a lineage began, one that spans dynasties, continents, empires, revolutions, and parking lots. Now, thousands of years later, what does it say about us that we still carry umbrellas? In a world filled with smart devices and space-age fabrics, the umbrella is stubbornly analog. It does not require a battery, it does not connect to Wi-Fi, it has no screen, no algorithm, no app, and yet, we trust it. Maybe because it reflects something essential about being human. It doesn't promise to stop the storm, only to keep a little of it off our heads. And that's enough. That humility's, that acceptance of imperfection is one of the umbrella's greatest lessons. In the modern world, we often expect tools to dominate nature, to fix it, to overpower it. But the umbrella does none of that. It doesn't change the weather. It doesn't silence the wind. It merely shelters. And shelter, as it turns out, is not the same as escape. To use an umbrella is to remain within the storm, to walk through it not above, not around, but directly beneath. The umbrella doesn't lift you out of reality. It helps you face it, one drop at a time. It is a tool of coexistence, not conquest. And perhaps this is why it appears in every culture, every age, because no matter who we are, emperor or worker, pilgrim or poet, we all must pass through weather. And the umbrella is the one invention we all seem to agree on. Its design has barely changed in centuries. A central shaft, ribs, a canopy, a handle, that's it. And yet it works, but the umbrella reveals even more. It reflects our relationship to vulnerability. To open one is to admit we are not impervious. We cannot pretend the sky doesn't affect us. And so, we raise a shield, not a wall, but a fabric dome, permeable and imperfect. It flutters, it drips, it sometimes collapses, but it's there, even when we don't want to admit we need it. This is why umbrellas can feel awkward in movies, why people walking under them in silence seem more fragile, more real. Because it takes a kind of quiet courage to admit we're weathering something, not fixing, not fleeing, weathering. And yet, for all its humble practicality, the umbrella also carries traces of grandeur. It is a descendant of thrones, of temple rituals, of royal processions and cosmic metaphors. It was once a symbol of divine right. Now, it's something we pick up at the gas station, that descent across centuries, from sacred to mundanese, and a fall from grace. It's a return to shared humanity, because we all get wet. We all, at some point, look up and wish we had something to shield us. That the umbrella once belonged only to kings, and now belongs to everyone, says something quietly beautiful about history, about progress, about dignity. We have democratized the sky, but still, we attach meaning to this object. We make umbrellas in our metaphors. We say under my umbrella, to mean protection. We speak of umbrella terms that gather many ideas beneath one frame. We refer to umbrella organizations, umbrella policies, umbrella movements. Even language mimics the gesture gathering, shielding, encompassing. The shape itself, a circle above, anchored by a line below, is ancient and universal. It is the shape of the dome, the tree, the sky, the idea of above and below, of heaven and earth, of what shelters and what is sheltered. In Buddhist art, the umbrella is one of the 8 sacred symbols, the chhatra, or canopy of protection. In Christian processions, it shades the Eucharist. In ancient China, it mirrored the cosmos. Even in dreams, it returns sometimes upright, sometimes lost, sometimes upside down and filling with water. That last image, the upside down umbrella, is perhaps the most haunting, because it becomes a vessel, a bowl, a thing that receives instead of deflects. It reminds us that sometimes we are not the one holding the umbrella. We are inside it, floating, drifting, waiting for the rain to stop. And so, what began as a stick with some stretched cloth has become a mirror of how we walk through the world, of how we protect ourselves, of how we hope. Because the umbrella is not grand, it's not flashy, it's not heroic, but it shows up It's the quiet act of opening something between you and what's coming. And sometimes, that's enough. Before it ever blooms above your head. Before it shields you from a storm. Before it turns inside out in the wind. An umbrella must be made. Not imagined, not drawn, not patented, made. Cut, bent, pressed, sewn, screwed, assembled. This chapter takes us not to the rain, but to the places where umbrellas are born, from quiet craft studios and old cities to roaring assembly lines and industrial hubs, from the hands of master artisans who fold silk and carve wood, to the machines that punch, twist, and rivet steel with inhuman precision. Because every umbrella begins not with a storm, but with a craft. Let's begin in Shediac, New Brunswick, in Canada, where one of North America's few artisanal umbrella makers still operates from a small shop, sewing each canopy by hand. Or in Monferrato, Italy, where the company Miglia Francesco has made umbrellas for 5 generations. There, the wood for each shaft is seasoned for months, carved from chestnut or maple, then steam bent and varnished. The fabric often waxed, cotton, or fine twillies cut by hand using shears older than the workers. The ribs are pinned, not glued, screwed, not snapped. Each umbrella takes several hours. Each one is meant to last a lifetime. These are not umbrellas you buy in a hurry. These are umbrellas you inherit. In London, you'll find James Smith & Sons, a shop that opened in 1830 and hasn't changed much since. Walk inside, and it's like stepping back into Victorian England. Polished wood, counters, brass hooks, umbrellas lined up like soldiers. Their signature models have bamboo handles, steel ribs, and weight. Real weight. Not something to toss in a tote bag, but to walk with. Like a statement or a staff. These umbrellas are not mass-produced. They are crafted. And there is a difference. But most umbrellas today are not born in shops like these. They are born in factories, massive ones. Across the sea, in the Guangdong province of China, thousands of factories churn out millions of umbrellas every year. It is estimated that over 70% of the world's umbrellas are manufactured in China, with many cities in the region devoted almost entirely to this one object. In Shenzhen, and especially Shangunik, named Umbrella City, assembly lines stretch the length of football fields. There, workers insert ribs into grooves, sew panels of polyester together with machines, test the spring mechanisms, fold, label, pack. It is fast, efficient, ruthlessly optimized. An average umbrella takes 8 minutes to assemble. Some workers repeat the same motion 10,000 times a day. Canopy, rib, screw, snap, fold. It's mesmerizing, but it's also a reminder. The umbrella is not just history or metaphor or magic, it's labor. In these factories, mostly staffed by women, a day's work might mean stitching 500 canopies. One slip, and the fabric puckers. One jam, and the needle breaks. It is repetitive, exacting, often underpaid, but essential. Because without these hands, there would be no shelter. And yet, even in mass production, there is a kind of choreography. The canopy fabric, nylon, pongee, or polyester is cut in perfect triangle wedges, usually 6 to 8 per umbrella. These are heat-sealed or stitched, sometimes reinforced at the corners. The ribs made of alumina, fiberglass, or sometimes steel are attached to a central shaft, usually hollow and collapsible. Then come the stretchers, the spring mechanism, the runner, and finally, the handle, plastic, wood, or rubberized grip. Quality control varies. In the cheapest models, umbrellas are assembled from prefabricated parts, tested for seconds, then boxed and shipped by the container load. These are the ones sold at train stations, dollar stores, and souvenir shops. Built to be used, expected to be lost. But even here, some factories take pride. They test for wind resistance in gust chambers. They measure UV protection for summer umbrellas. They soak them in salt water to simulate years of use. They train workers to spot flaws in the canopies, stitching with a glance. Because even if it's made fast, an umbrella still represents a promise that it will be there, however briefly, between you and the sky. And then there's Japan. where umbrella making is not just industry or craft but art. In Gifu Prefecture, traditional Vagasa umbrellas are still made by hand. The ribs are bamboo, the paper is washi strong, handmade, waterproofed with oil. Painting one umbrella can take days. Some are made for tea ceremonies, others for classical dance. Some are never meant to open, only to be admired. In a small shop, a single craftsman might build 200 umbrellas a year. Each one a work of memory, of silence, of legacy, and that's the strange truth. Whether made in a roaring factory or a quiet shed, every umbrella carries the trace of someone's hands. Even the most disposable one was bent by a person, sewn by someone, tested, touched, handled, and then, that is the secret poetry of the umbrella, it disappears. It is not a tool that draws attention. You don't show it off. You don't keep it on the table. It lives in thresholds, by doors, under desks, behind closets, always waiting. And perhaps it teaches us, without words, the value of the unnoticed, the quiet, the thing that is made simply to help, to carry, to be there in a moment of discomfort. A storm begins without permission. There's no announcement, no vote. One moment, the world is clear. The next, it is dark. The clouds fold inward. The air turns cold and electric. And suddenly, you're standing on the edge of something larger than yourself. Most people run. They hunch their shoulders. They cover their heads with whatever they can find, newspapers, shopping bags, trembling hands. But some pause, reach, click, lift, and up it goes. The umbrella, that strange, stubborn circle of fabric, that imperfect shield, that quiet defiance? Why? Why do we still do it? Why, in a world of high-tech, weather gear and water-resistant clothing and forecasts down to the minute, do we still carry this clumsy, outdated object? Because the umbrella isn't just about the rain. It's about how we respond to the unexpected. It's about how we make space for ourselves under pressure, in public, in the middle of the mess. There is something almost spiritual in the gesture. To open an umbrella is to claim a radius of peace. In that small circle of shade, you say, I am still myself. I am not drowning today. I will move forward, even in this. Think about how we use them. On city sidewalks, umbrellas bump and sway like leaves in the wind, forcing strangers into a polite ballet. The silent negotiation of space. In quiet suburbs, a single umbrella on a rainy evening can look like a lone lantern moving through the mist. In war zones, even umbrellas still appear. Shabby, torn, bent, but carried anyway. It's not armor, it's not escape, it's endurance. It doesn't keep you dry, not fully, but it gives you just enough protection to keep going. And that is often all we need. This is why we carry them even when we don't need them. Why we keep them by the door, in the car, at the office. Why we lend them to others. Why we remember the ones we lost. They are not heroic, but they are faithful. Even when bent, even when soaked. Even when they turn inside out and make us curse and laugh at the same time. Umbrellas are us. Fragile, but determined. Outmatched, but upright. Bent, but never broken for long. They don't conquer the storm. They walk through it. And that makes them powerful. Not in the way a sword is powerful. Not in the way a machine is powerful. But in the way a lamp is powerful in the dark. In the way a hand on your shoulder is powerful when you're afraid. In the way a memory is powerful quietly, insistently, eternally. There's something deeply human about lifting an umbrella. It's a small resistance against the idea that we must always submit. And unlike many other tools we use, the umbrella is visible. It says to the world, I am not pretending this is easy. I am getting wet, yes, but I am not giving up. When you see someone walking with an umbrella in a storm, you don't mock them. You relate to them. You understand them. Because we all carry our versions of weather, stress, loss, uncertainty, time, change. The umbrella becomes a metaphor for whatever we use to hold back the chaos routine. Prayer, love, therapy, kindness, hope. They may not be perfect, they may not be strong, but they work just enough. And so we keep them. We fix their spokes. We dry them out in corners. We carry them into new cities, new decades, new storms. We teach our children how to open them. We hold them over others, not just ourselves. That's something umbrellas remind us. Too, that shelter can be shared. And in that moment, when two people duck under one canopy, shoulders touching, walking in sync through the weather, something invisible is exchanged. Not just dryness, not just warmth, but togetherness. And that's what the umbrella, at its core, truly offers. Not the end of the storm, but the comfort of walking through it together. The storm is past, the sky clears, pale and wide, and the last drops fall like punctuation marks soft. People emerge from doorways, traffic resumes. The air smells like stone, like ozone, like everything starting over. And all across the city, umbrellas begin to close. There's a particular sound to it, a quiet flump, a soft metallic click, a final shake of water onto the sidewalk. That gesture of lowering the canopy, folding it back into its tight, coiled form is as ancient as it is unnoticed. But it's not just a physical act. It's a kind of release. The umbrella, like tension, like fear, like memory, draws in, collapses, becomes small again. And in that moment, we return to something simpler. The storm is gone, but the umbrella remains, dripping slightly, leaning in a corner, waiting, because it knows, even if we don't want to say it out loud, the rain will come again. It always does. That's one of the quiet truths the umbrella has carried for thousands of years. Not that the world can be controlled, but that it can be endured. That shelter is not permanence, but practice. That preparedness isn't always glamorous, but it is always gentle. Let's look back. From feathered parasols in ancient Egypt held above pharaohs to bamboo canopies in China, painted with dragons and verse. From the lonely walks of Jonas Hanway in 18th century London, mocked and pelted, to the explosion of folding umbrellas in the factories of Shangyu, where 1 million ribs are born each day. From the priest beneath a silk sunshade in Ethiopia, to the protester in Hong Kong deflecting tear gas with a battered black dome. From geishas twirling Vagasa beneath Kyoto, cherry trees, 2 children hopping puddles with cartoon umbrellas in Manchester. And now, to us, wherever we are, whoever we are, standing in a doorway, watching the sky, the umbrella's story is not just about weather. It's about how we meet the uncontrollable, and how we choose to walk anyway. No other object so small has carried so many layers of meaning. It has been a crown, a shield, a fashion, a weapon, a whisper. It has protected emperors and orphans. It has collapsed in laughter and risen in protest. It is made of sticks and cloth and habit, and it has lasted 10,000 years. That's longer than the book, longer than the wheelbarrow, longer than the chair, the fork, the doorbell, longer than some gods. What other object follows us so faithfully from birth to burial? In old photographs, we see umbrellas. In final scenes of films, we watch them fall from hands. In old closets, we find them waiting. And what do? We take them. We shake the dust. We carry them into the rain. It is hard to think of another tool so quiet and so persistent, so overlooked, and yet so present in our lives. We don't honor them, we don't frame them, but we keep them tucked beside us. For that moment when the sky forgets itself. And when that moment comes, we reach for it with a gesture older than language, more intimate than armor, more reliable than most things in life. We lift it, and under that small, trembling canopy, we become the calm in the storm. That is the story of the umbrella. Not how it changed the world, but how it stayed with us. As the world changed, again and again and again, the rain will return, but so will we.